Hello, you fabulous star sound cowgirls, cowboys, and mare people of the intergalactic. Welcome back to another edition of Star Sound Speaks. This is episode 237. And we are going to talk about this week's astrology from going from Sunday, the February 19th through the 25th. Now, obviously, the big news this week is going to be the new moon. But there's also one other thing. And I know I'm saying all these goodbyes because this is a season of goodbyes. And why is that? Well, I'm going to explain in just a moment. For those of you who haven't met me, my name's Irlianna, and I do whole sign houses with tropical Western astrology, traditional or Hellenistic astrology blended with modern. So anyway, I just want to say that, Sunday, this Sunday, the 19th of February, it's an interesting day because late in the day or early Monday morning, depending on what time zone you are in, I quoted on Eastern Standard Time, but that's when we're going to have our new moon in Pisces, 1 degree Pisces. But before that happens, Sunday is another marker because it's the last time the moon will meet up with Saturn. Saturn conjunct the moon where Saturn is in domicile. And so this won't happen again for another 29 years where Saturn is in domicile. So this is definitely an age of, this is a time of goodbyes and the end of a certain chapter of our history. With Saturn being in domicile for the last 5 years. So this is an enormous amount of time and restructuring and planning and indicating, where our civilization, where our society goes next. And so the moon is saying goodbye. Now, Mercury will be actually the last planet to say goodbye, formally say goodbye in the solar system, but the moon is going to have its last goodbye on Sunday. So moon conjunct Saturn, yes, definitely the end of a certain era. Now, I want to say too, before we get into this amazing new moon, the Venus is going to be, which is, kind of moving through beautiful, gentle, and creatively and artistically inspiring Venus in Pisces, which hopefully by now you did not get into too much serious trouble with illusion or delusion at Valentine's Day. Hopefully not. Although maybe overindulgence in chocolates, Venus rules sweets. It's okay. It's Valentine's Day. You make up for it. Saturn and the sun are like, okay, we're going to get serious around our, being disciplined. But anyway, yeah, we have that little walk through the park on Valentine's Day. But anyway, Venus is now going to be making a sextile, which is the nature of it's a 60-degree angle, so it has the nature of Venus. It's an ease and a connection with Pluto in the sign, of course, late degrees of Capricorn. That's going to be on Sunday, February 19th. And so what is this going to give us? Well, I would think when you look at all the archetypes here, this is a great opportunity for engaging with all our creative and artistic and inspirational pursuits and engaging with them on a really profound, transformative level. This is going to be really a ripe opportunity to do that. Maybe there's some revelations that that might come up for us, and it might be, painful, but if we approach them and engage them with love and compassion for ourselves and perhaps for our families or loved ones or people that we're intimate with, we can uncover and regenerate not only ourselves, but really see things in a different light and the ability to transform maybe painful past experiences. But certainly it speaks to a profound, deeply intense, and maybe emotional and cathartic meetup of passions and of Plutonian transformation. So this is an opportunity that can speak to where we can maybe create intimacy and cultivate compassion over maybe what has been painful topics for us, wound healing, family dynamics, things of that nature. So Venus, again, making that sextile to Pluto, it'll perfect on Sunday the 19th, and then the effect of that gently unfolds over the next few days. So anyway, then we have our new moon. So let's talk about that. The new moon's going to be at 1 degree of Pisces, 22 minutes. Very interesting. Some things to know about this new moon. I want to talk about all the outrageous possibilities, but we're also going to talk about what to look out for too. So a new moon is always a new beginning. The sun and the moon are lined up at the same degree, in this case, 1 degree Pisces. And we want to look at, and I've got the chart here for, I'll show it in just a minute, for Washington, D.C. This is a new beginning, a new cycle of life, and it happens to be when the sun is in Pisces. This speaks to a beauty, the dissolution of reality, the dissolution of form, the beauty and transcendence, and the ideal world, and artistic and creative inspiration, and things of that nature. So Venus has kind of been prepping us for this. Now we have our new moon in Pisces, and this one is conjunct a fixed star, a very, very powerful fixed star called Fomalhaut. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sounds like formal hut. Is that an informal hut or a formal hut? Well, they're wearing tuxedos, so it must be formal hut. Anyway, all right, why is this important? Well, Fomalhaut is a star. It's a very powerful royal star. It's considered a magic royal star. It's associated with Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel, the Watcher of the South. So this is, there's Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael, the 4 watchers. Well, this Fomalhaut corresponds with Gabriel, the messenger, right? Gabriel is the messenger. And so it's of the nature of Venus and Mercury. So this would be really great certainly with writing and new beginnings, and maybe creative inspirations with writing or speaking or learning. When you think Mercury can be in that vein as well. There's a lot of it's considered a fortunate star, so there's glory and honor associated with this star, and also to lean into, when we want to look at the motives, like for instance, if there is glory and honor there, where are we coming from? We want to be really careful with whenever the moon, whenever we got a new moon in Pisces, we can be not seeing the forest from the trees, and maybe being so deluded by fantasy or the need to escape. So we want to watch out for those things. In the case of this particular new moon with Fomalhaut, there could be a fall from grace, because maybe if we have to make sure that what we're pursuing is not like very selfish, but really to do things for the greater good. So, maybe yes, fame and glory are very much associated with this particular fixed star, but also an equally, on the other side, a fall from grace. Here's a great example. Jim Baker. Do you remember Jim Baker in the 80s? He was married to Tammy Faye Baker. And it was the PTL Ministries. This is that big scandal. It was like the accusations of rape and such. And also he was, I think he had to have gone to jail. Accounting fraud with accounting. He just got this big ministry, and there was a lot of abuse and things and secrets and cover-ups that all came undone. Well, he has Fomalhaut conjunct his ascendant. So there's this savior martyr complex that can speak to that, and certainly secrets and deception and fraud, obviously. Saw it very clearly with him. But other nice aspects of Fomalhaut. Well, Elvis Presley, he had a Fomalhaut conjunct, I think, his moon. And so, yes, it can bring everlasting fame. So I'm like, okay, that's great with our, it can really motivate us to do great things with our creativity, but we also have to be careful, because there are typically obstacles that get in the way. And obviously with Elvis's life, we're all, pretty familiar with that. The mystic Osho, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, he had Fomalhaut conjunct his midheaven. The midheaven is one's career and public reputation. So yes, he was seen as a mystic. Certainly mystics are always misunderstood in whatever age and culture. It's all kind of like the way it is. He went through a lot of, because of his mystical, he would give Shaktipat experiences in darshans with, thousands and thousands of people from all over the world came to his ashrams. and it wrote many books, but very much misunderstood by many people. Certainly he had his troubles with people trying to take him down, the government and such and all that. So you can see again this struggle, a life that was given to selfless service and spiritual, mystical levels of transcendent spiritual wisdom, and also, you know, the struggles that have come with that, that came with that. And so that kind of gives us an example or a sense of, you know, what Fomalhaut is. It's a magic, like I said, it's a magical star, and so it's not every new moon, you know, that we have a new moon fixed with a royal star. So this is obviously very you know, auspicious. Now the ruler of this particular let's pull up the chart here. Let me show you here. Here is the chart for Washington, D.C. And the ruler of this is obviously Jupiter, right? Because the new moon is in Pisces, and Jupiter is the ruler, the domicile, the host of this lunation. Well, Jupiter is in aversion, which means it's turned away. It's in the very next sign in Aries. So Jupiter, this new moon lunation cannot see its host. And that's not an easy place. When something's in aversion, it means turned away. And so it's very difficult to maybe see straight or get clear on things. So even though this new moon is going to give us some really great, not to take away from it, because it's awesome, it's going to give us an impetus to be creative, you know, sky's the limit, having faith in our ability to start again, you know, to begin again, and it speaks to that, and that confidence and that optimism with Jupiter in the as you can see here, Jupiter in the sign of Aries. Yes, fresh new beginnings, finding one's truth and one's individual way. Yes, this is obviously a very auspicious time for that. However, you also want to, you know, aversion could be where it might be difficult to get support. Maybe say support for rights. When you think about Jupiter and Aries, like I think about people struggling with out in the protesters and demonstrations in various countries for democracy and such. So there may be some kind of maybe a difficulty there. However, when I thought about this, I kind of meditated on it. Aversion could be a gift. So there's always a silver lining in everything. And I feel like with aversion, it could be that because the host cannot see the ruler, I'm sorry, because this new moon cannot see its host, its Airbnb host, that could actually work in its favor, because it's going to, this particularly could push us to rely on ourselves, to divine what is really the truth. Jupiter and Aries, what is my own truth? What is my own individual truth as it relates to the Piscean, you know, the mystical realms and the realms of the non-material world, you know, the ancestors, spirits, being connected to the highest levels of the divine, and the devotion that comes with that, and what we do to sacrifice, and the efforts and sacrifices we make to reach and to cultivate those transcendent experiences. So aversion could be a gift if we have to rely on ourselves and not, you know, when I think about Jupiter in the sign of Pisces, I'm sorry, Jupiter in the sign of Aries, it's like, okay, don't rely on a priest or a guru or a middleman or whatever culture. It's like the real guru is ourselves, and this could be a lunation that really speaks to that. We've also got Jupiter, and Neptune and Venus still very close. You know, Venus has already passed its exact conjunction, but again, you know, a beautiful Venus in exaltation, in her exaltation in Pisces, is going to lend itself to a lot of creative inspiration. And I think just leaning on ourselves as that, as the source of that, like knowing that we have this, we are that divinity on the earth, and it's not outside of ourselves, and we don't have to seek it through somebody else. So it's to cultivate our own individual connection with the divine, instead of relying on others or an external, I want to say not authentication, but external validation, is to rely on your own validation. And, you know, as Jesus said, and Eckhart Tolle very often quotes this, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And that might be a good reminder. Maybe that's our little theme song for this lunation. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's space, the inner space, cultivating that inner space. That is what it's about. It's not outside of us, like, oh, this God or this man on this cloud, right? It's the kingdom of heaven is within you. So relying on divine revelations. And I would say too, with Jupiter in Mars's temple and Mars in Gemini, that could mean that other channels of communication can become available to us, like telepathy. When you think the higher aspect of Jupiter, I'm sorry, the higher aspect of Gemini is telepathy. So on the lower planes, it's, you know, fact gathering and busyness and the busy mind tabulating facts and statistics running around everywhere, right? That's like, you know, 3D Mercury. But Mercury in Gemini can be cultivating these higher powers of the mind telepathically, for example. So just putting that out there for some talk about, you know, getting creatively inspired. At the same time this is going on, we have at that new another thing I want to talk about with this is Venus is not only, it's in the final degree, the karmic or anaretic degree of her exaltation in Pisces, and there is a fixed star called Sheet, and it's considered an unfortunate star. The sun was conjunct Sheet when the Iraq war started in 2003, and we all know how that ended. But Venus there, Venus could give us, there's some kind of a grace or a sweetness, say, for example, the ability to reach out and embrace those of us who are suffering. This is often associated with people in like war zones, or you think right now with the situation, sending our prayers and our compassion to the people in Syria and Turkey coming out of that horrific earthquake. So this is very much colored by these experiences of mercy and kindness and reaching out to assist somebody in a bad way. So that could be the grace of Sheet. It's like where we witness some very, very difficult things like imprisonment and, you know, death and such. But there's also that ability to be there in service, like I could say, you know, selfless service to assist people who are in these like war zones, or just the war zone that can occur in our own lives that are not on the other side of the world, but, you know, where can we find and cultivate compassion for ourselves and our relationships and ourselves and our self-esteem even. So, you know, looking at it that way. 5 minutes after the new moon, Venus leaves and goes into 0 Aries. Well, now she goes from her exaltation in Pisces into exile. So Venus doesn't like being in Aries, right? It's like, you know, the girl in the guy's locker room. You know, too much testosterone. But again, you know, you make, what do they say? Make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Well, what are you going to do when Venus is in Aries? Well, one good thing we can do is we stand up for our rights. We stand up as women. We stand up for, get passionate around making connections that are strong and courageous and bold, and taking steps and actions that further the Venusian principles: love, peace, art, beauty, you know, like taking a strong stand for beauty. Hey, it's just Venus just swam through Pisces for a few weeks. Now we can take all that inspiration and take steps forward. With Aries, it's like, great, roll that forward, roll it, like, what you're going to do with it? What new direction are we going to take? What steps that can we take that will, you know, make the most of that? What, we don't just leave a sign and go into it. It's not a vacuum. It's like, think of it as the torch being passed, like in a relay race, the torch passes. So Venus passing the torch to into the or entering the domain of Mars is really saying in Aries is like, yeah, we can be powerful, we can be speak up for ourselves, we create intimate relationships and agreements that are based on our individual selves, of not losing ourselves in another, but knowing ourselves. what is that? Was that Socrates? It says, to thine own self be true, or know thyself. It was like, I think inscribed on the Oracle of Delphi, or wherever it was in ancient Greece. So some inspiration there. This new moon cycle would very much speak to women and our relationships being emboldened, maybe even stepping up for equality and individuality. So there's that. Yeah. All right. So the last thing I want to say is just that we have two little transits later in the week. So Tuesday, February 21st, we have Mercury in a square with Uranus. Mercury in Aquarius is about 15 degrees. And so that would speak to, our ideas and thoughts that could be very exciting and new and innovative and out of the box thinking, to maybe engage our out of the box thinking and problem solving, to say, for example, the difficulties that we're facing on Earth with, drought, Uranus and Taurus, drought, wildfires, forest fires, things like that, or just our values, the ability to get out of our comfort zone and deal with a future that is calling for us to really be innovative and think differently. So whether it's on the microcosmic level of your own life, or just seeing it in the collective, this is definitely could give a lot of, it could show us and the ability to take action and step forward with innovative, futuristic problem solving. We can leave it at that. The next day, February 22nd, we have Mercury in a trine with Mars. So it squares Uranus and Taurus, gets emboldened with out-of-the-box thinking and solutions, and then and new values, exciting new values that will liberate us from stuck old ways and thinking. And then it goes into a trine with Mars and Gemini. So then these ideas can flow into action, new exciting directions, considering different points of view. The thing you probably want to watch out for, I think we want to be careful of, is not to get into arguments, and we want to avoid, Mercury in Aquarius can alienate people too. We can be the outsider that's kind of like the rebel, which is, it's not a good way of using that energy, is to feel like isolated, or like get so polarized in our thinking that we don't come around and unite. So avoid alienating people with, say, ideology. That would be my suggestion. So I think that I've covered everything. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful week and a fantastic Pisces season. And Pisces, of course, the big deal, how could I forget this? This is the lunation that leads us into March, where March 7th, Saturn goes into Pisces. So this lunation with the sun in Pisces, it's kind of a little preview of, hey, watch what happens around the beginning of this new moon, the first day and second day or so, before and after the new moon, because that's giving us a little taste of what's to come when Saturn gets there. And Saturn's going to be there for about 3 years. So watch these dates carefully and watch and observe ourselves in relationship to what is occurring. And it's a great place for journaling. Saturn in Pisces, where Saturn is always bringing limits and accountability and a cold, hard reality check. So it's going to be asking us, what kind of ideal world do we want to build? What will your spirituality look like? What will your reality, your world, what you consider to be real, what will that look like? Maybe there's a healing crisis, or a crisis in faith that needs to be healed. So just some ideas. I know with, Pisces ruling organized religion, the last time Saturn was in Pisces is when the Catholic Church had all the clergy abuse scandals and lawsuits that started to open up. And the movie Spotlight that won the Oscar a few years ago, that happened in mid-90s. So that was a great movie that, showed very much about what was at stake and the crisis in faith that so many people who had been abused and molested had to go through. So those ideas and archetypes will certainly be a very front and present for this lunation, because again, Saturn being there, entering on March 7th, it's going to bring that whole new chapter will open up. coming out of domicile into the sign of Pisces, a whole different scenario unfolds. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that and this podcast. And if you need a reading or session or anything that I can help you with, always a pleasure and an honor. It is my spiritual practice, and I am very grateful to be able to share with you every week. So that's all for now, and you have a fantastic week. See you next time. Mwah! Love you all. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thanks for listening. Namaste.